Hello and welcome to another Luminar coffee break. I'm your host, Vanelli. Now, in this coffee break, what I want to do is I want to show you the 3 ways to use Luminar. Now, keep in mind, our goal here at Skylum is to work within your workflow. If you want to use Luminar strictly as a standalone program, you don't have Photoshop, you don't have Lightroom, you don't have any other program, you just want Luminar as a standalone program, I'll show you how to do that. If you're so used to Photoshop and Lightroom and it's part of your workflow, I'll show you how to use Luminar as a plugin to those 2 programs. And you can even use it for Capture One. And last, I'll show you how you can use Luminar strictly as a standalone single image editing program. All right? So those are the 3 different ways. And again, our goal is to fit inside your workflow. All right? So let's get started. Now, before we do, hello, Ev. How you doing? Let's give a little shout out to a couple people. Ev is joining us from Canada. And of course, my buddy Brian. Hello. Before we begin, I do want to answer this real quick question from Root. I know this is not part of today's lesson, but I'll make this real quick. It's a fast answer. Look at sky gap. Look at the gap. So if you notice when you replace the sky and it's not filling the entire sky, click on advanced and then go to gap. The best thing to do when you get stuck like this, let me share my screen. When you get stuck like this, go to help and then come to user guide. All right? So when you get stuck like this, go to help, user guide, and then just type in the tool you're looking for. And here it is. So in the case that you're dealing with, if you notice the sky is not being completely filled, then close gaps. That's where it is. So under advanced tools, close gap. This slider will fix small details and holes that were not filled by the replaced sky initially. All right. So I hope that helped you. All right. And let me get back. All right, so here we are. Now, as you know, our good friends over at Fujifilm loaned me an X-T3 camera to experiment with, and I had no other subject to photograph over the weekend except this adorable, beautiful little kitten that's a rescue cat that they brought in, that friends of mine have. So here's a good example. Now, without thinking, I ripped 237 frames because this thing is so stinking fast. I couldn't believe it. I just ripped, look at this. So I just ripped all these frames, and you notice they look so similar because of the speed of capturing it. So, first way we could use Luminar as a standalone application. So imagine I have 237 images. Now, you don't want to sit through 237 of my images and to look for them or to look through them all. So instead, what you're going to do instead is have me go through and just select my favorites. So I already did a few of them. I'll do a couple more. So I could use Luminar as a standalone program and take advantage of the library feature. And I'm just going to browse through some of these images. And if I see one that I'd like, I'll hit P for pick or select. Let's see, we'll do this one here. And then once I get all the ones I like, now I can narrow them down and only show just my favorites. So here we are. Out of the 200 and how many I showed earlier, I narrowed it down to 16 of them. Now I can take that one step further, and with that 216, here, let me just reset this. There we go. Out of that 216, I can go back through and think, okay, well, which ones do I want to narrow down and actually process? So I can go through. I'm sorry, that's cute. I'm going to use a single star just to select from my favorites, all right? So I'm going to bomb through these. I like this one here. Oh, single star. Look at him with his tongue. All right. He is just so adorable. All right, so I just went through, and let's say I selected my favorites by choosing a single star. Well, now I can come over here and show just single star or more. And here we are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I can select these 5, and I can create an album of them. So now the album could be to be processed. I can just drag and drop those 5 into the to be processed, and now I know which, so without having to go through, let me get back to the original. And by the way, I'm actually working off a memory card. I can't believe how fast it's actually previewing these images. So here we are with 237 images. So instead of having to go through all 237 images, I can just come over here and say, oh yeah, these are the 5 I chose to be processed. Then, let's use this one. Oh God, he kills me. I can still use the cropping features. So as soon as it pulls up, there we go. Try it again. There we go. All right, I'm going to go to the canvas tools, crop, and let's just bring it in right about here. I like that. And then I can come over and let's just use, I love Mood Enhancer. Dial it back just a little bit. And there we have it. All right, so before and after, and I would probably do a couple more edits to it, but you're getting the idea of what I'm going through. So I can just click here, or let's say my view, I can show the film strip, and now I can just go through each one of these in the edit view, and I can select which ones I want to edit. Let's say this one here again, either Mood Enhancer, probably a little bit more to it, and then I can just go on to the next one and just keep my editing workflow real simple. All right, so that's using Luminar. Let's make sure it did it. There it goes. Pull it back just a little, right about there. Or do you remember earlier, yesterday, I actually created a Luminar look. Let's see how that would look on here. I'm going to use kitten number 2. Okay, but I won't use the lens flare or the sun rays. All right, so the gist of what I'm getting at is I can easily go through and start selecting. Oh, look at that in black and white. I love that. So I can just go through, pick an image, apply a look, and then move on to the next one. Actually, no, I'm going to dial that back a little bit. Oh, did I pick the wrong one? Here it goes. There we are. Good. And then dial it back just a little bit. Give that muted color. All right, so do you see how I use this as my workflow? So as a standalone program, I have full access to the library tools to where I can go through and just start selecting, let me get back to it, to my library tools, and I can start selecting single or multiple images, organize them, and getting it all going. Boom, done. That's the standalone version. Now, if you're so used to using Lightroom to organize all your images, then you can do it through Lightroom. If you're used to Photoshop, starting in Photoshop, cropping, doing all your cool stuff in Photoshop, and then adding extra effects, you'd use it as a plugin. So let's do that. I'm going to right-click on one of the images. I'm going to show it in Explorer. This is just the easiest way to get into Photoshop. And I'll put open with Photoshop. And then Photoshop's going to launch. Now, keep this in mind. The tools that we have inside, all the tools that we have inside Luminar are the same tools you'll use as a plugin, same tools you'll use as a single image editor. But keep in mind, as a plugin, there are a couple tools you won't have access to, which is, the crop tool. Now, the reason for that, and it's not just Luminar, it's any plugin, whatever host application you're in, that deals with cropping. And then you export it out to your plugin. So here we are in Photoshop. I'm going to open up the image. Now, my suggestion is this. If you're going to use Photoshop, I would convert the layer to a smart object. And the reason why I would convert it to a smart object is because now it becomes a smart filter, meaning I can always go back and edit any changes I've made inside Luminar. So I'm going to click on Luminar as a plugin. Now, it's safe to say right here, I'm running the standalone version of Luminar. At the same time, I'm running the plugin. So the plugin and the standalone can be ran at the same time. I'd recommend not to do that, only because it's a system hog. Photoshop, Lightroom, and Luminar loves to use your system resources and your GPU. So if I'm not using Lightroom or Photoshop, I shut it off and I strictly use Luminar. If I'm not using Luminar if I'm only using it as a plugin, I'll shut down the regular version, the standalone version of Luminar, just to save system resources. All right. So here we are with the beautiful kitten again. Let's see. Here's a classic black and white. All right, I like that. Notice if I come over here to the canvas tools, I can't crop it. All right. So that's one of the only stipulations when you're dealing with a plugin. And again, the plugin, not just for Luminar, it's for any plugin. The crop feature is left for the host application. All right. So I have this cute little image. Let's do detail enhancement. Good, but then structure. I want to bring the structure weight. There we go. All right. So that just gives me an example. And then I click apply. And now it shoots it back into Photoshop. Now, once it does that, now I'm inside Photoshop, or back into the host application, Photoshop. The difference is, if I decide to make a change again, I could just double click on the smart filter, and it fires up Luminar all over again, and I'm right back where I started from, where I can make my changes. All right. Now, so let's see. So we have that set, right? Now let's close out of Photoshop. And once again, I'm going to show in Explorer. All right. I'm going to fire up Lightroom. Now, once I fire up Lightroom, I'm going to drag and drop. This image into Lightroom. Let's get Lightroom fully open. There we go. All right, so I dragged and dropped it in, and then I'm going to import it. Now I ingested it into Lightroom. Here's my image. I can start out, let's say we want to crop it. Good. So I have my image all set. I'll do a little better on the crop right about here. There we go. All right, so here I am with the crop. Now I can right click and choose Edit in Luminar 4. If Luminar 4 doesn't show here, two things we need to do. One, make sure, well, first off, make sure inside Luminar itself, File, Install Plugins, and the Install Plugin shows Lightroom and Photoshop are installed, all right? Now, if I'm inside Lightroom and this doesn't show Edit in Luminar, go to your Preferences, and under Preferences, make sure that right here, Additional Editor, make sure you're selecting Luminar here. I chose to go with a JPEG, so after it's done copying it, setting it to Luminar, I want it to return as a JPEG, all right? And then I put a little custom setting on the bottom here to add the extension Luminar, not extension, but the name Luminar, -Luminar, at the end of the file name, so I know that I used Luminar to edit this image, all right? So I got it all set. Edit in Luminar. I want to edit with a copy of Lightroom adjustments. If I didn't do this, and I just edited the original, then I'm actually, if this were a JPEG, I'm overwriting that JPEG. So be very careful on that. Edit. And it's going to fire up. Luminar is a plugin. And then just like we've been doing all along, I can make any changes I want to it. We'll do that simple. Actually, you know what? Let's do contrast enhancer. See what that does. Well, that looks pretty cool. All right, I like that. And then apply. Once I apply it, it'll shoot it back. Now, while I was doing that, let's see, we had a question that came in. Support for landscaping photo stitching. If you go to skylum.com, check out the roadmap, and you'll see what's on the roadmap. That I haven't seen, but if it's a request, if there's something you guys definitely have a request for, by all means, bring it in. But with that being said, I'm sorry, I don't mean to go off on this. Somebody wrote, well, hey, are you going to be able to have the auto adjustment like Lightroom has? Lightroom has this. Hey, same person, can you do this? This is what Lightroom has. Timeout. That's Lightroom. This is Luminar. If our engineers have to spend time recreating the tools that Lightroom already has, well, then we're just recreating Lightroom. Instead, we're creating Luminar with all the features and the tools that Luminar has to offer. Lightroom doesn't have the AI technology, sky replacement, skin, the automatic blemish and skin softening, the portrait retouching. So there's a lot of tools that Lightroom doesn't have. So if you're a person who uses Lightroom, do all of those tools inside Lightroom. Here's a perfect time to do auto-correcting of the horizontal lines and everything, and then shoot it over as a plugin. If you're just looking for a cheaper version of a Lightroom replacement, then that's not Luminar. Luminar is a full-feature, fully rich program with tons of incredible tools. So I don't mind comparing. Say, hey, that would be nice. But if we already have that tool elsewhere and it's not a priority, that's low on the list, all right? The stitching and the panorama, again, that may be something that's great for the masses, and it may be, your input would be great if the engineers look at that and say, you know what? Our customer base really wants this. Let's devote our energy and time to that. For myself as a portrait photographer, I love the fact that they spend all that time on the portrait tools instead of doing auto align. But for me, that worked out phenomenal. All right? So, sorry about that. Now let me get back to this real quick. So I'm back into Luminar, or into Lightroom, and notice it add that extension, luminar.jpg. All right? Great. So I'm back into Luminar. And now, last but not least, you could use it as a single image editor. So let's say, Jamie, you come over the house, or Jamel, you come over to the house and you say, hey, Vanelli, here's one of my images. Do me a favor. Could you show me how you would edit it? Well, I can open it up as a single image editor. So I could browse your thumb drive. I'll just pick any image. Open it up. Open it up. Look at him. And then from here, let me give a more. Let's get a little more real estate here. Here we go. All right. So I open it up, make all my changes to this, and let's say, and here notice I will have my cropping tools, because if I'm only using it as a single image editor, I don't have to worry about the library tool. So I'm not using the library features. Even though the library features are here, I'm not using it. Where I could find this image is right here in single image edits. And these are the images that I've chose to open up, and I could choose to remove. So I can remove from single image editor, and it's there. So I don't need to use it. As a full-flown or full standalone program. All right? Whew. I got through that. That's usually an hour-and-a-half course trying to teach all three versions, not versions, but three ways to use Luminar. One is a single image editor. Two, as a Lightroom or a Photoshop plugin in Capture One. And then three, as a full-fledged standalone standalone program, using the library, organizing all your images for you, putting them into albums, and organizing your images so it's fast and easy to edit. Whew. So we got through all of that. Now, real quick, I do want to show you guys this. Someone asked, where can I find all of these coffee breaks and videos that you guys have been putting together? Well, you see our buddy Ed here, Ev. Here he is. This is what he looks like. Ev and Rich Harrington are the brainchild behind Skylum Academy. These two have really gone out of their way. To push not just content from myself, but from lots of extremely talented and popular photographers from all over the world. So you can go from the academy here, getting started, tutorials, classes, podcasting user guide. You can look at the tutorials, and they've broken them down between the different levels. And if you notice, under the podcasting is where you'll find the coffee breaks. So you'll find those in here. And then for classes, which we have a lot more coming soon, is you'll see classes taught. There's one by Nicole Young coming up on the 6th that I'll be hosting with her. And then I'll be doing a class on the 15th. And then over here, Rich Harrington already did a past event. You'll see all past events here. And of course, the fabulous user guide is part of that. All right? So there you have it. When you want more information and more knowledge, instead of sifting through all the YouTube content, just go to skylum.com/academy, and then all the content that we've been creating will be there. If you have a question like my buddy Jamel did on the sky, actually, who was it in the very beginning? Nope, it was Root. That's it. So she had that question about the sky replacement. I showed you where to find the answer real quick. Just go to the user guide, type your tool in, and it gives you all the information you need to know and videos on how to use it. Well, guys, thanks so much for joining me today. If you like this video, and I should have asked this in the very beginning, please hit that thumbs up button. We have a lot of people watching the videos, and it's kind of hard to judge how well we're doing without comments or without the thumbs up. So if you like what you're seeing, please hit that thumbs up for us. All right? Well, hey, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow on the next coffee break.